Hi, Ricardo, over to you.
Ok. Bom dia a todos. Obrigado por participarem. Como segundo evento da gente, eu queria agradecer a presença e pedir se puderem, depois do evento, nos passarem feedbacks, tópicos que queiram. E aí a gente pode estar melhorando isso, tá? Depois esse material vai ficar disponível para vocês. Entrem em contato conosco, assim que vocês puderem, para a gente falar e estar sempre melhorando o projeto. Então, a gente vai ter uma agenda. JT, can you show the agenda, please? Então, a agenda de hoje é uma mistura de assuntos sobre Citrix e sobre NetScaler. São materiais que a gente acha que gostaria de reforçar a parte do Universal, contar as transformações que nós estamos fazendo nas duas unidades de negócio e pontos que a gente acha importante que a gente possa continuar trabalhando com vocês. Então, todo o feedback que vocês puderem, dúvidas, querem mais material sobre isso, por favor, entrem em contato. Então, a ideia aqui continua sendo um material que está em inglês, mas tem closed caption em todo o material, pode facilitar. Perguntas, por favor, coloque no chat. E a gente um começo, a gente pode continuar depois, se vocês quiserem. Ou ao final, a gente pode responder também esse material, tá bom? GT, can you just start with the Universal, please?
Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for this update. This is Adam Lotz from the Citrix product marketing team, and today we're going to talk about Citrix product changes and positioning, and specifically the introduction of Citrix Universal Licensing, which is launching on March 8th. First, let's talk about why we're making these changes and what they mean for the way customers interact with Citrix. Now, as we've worked with enterprise customers over the last few years and helped with their cloud transitions, it's become clear to us that hybrid is the natural state for enterprise IT. As environments get larger, complex multi-site deployments and multi-vendor relationships are becoming the norm. And as the cornerstone of Cloud Software Group, we're also making a corporate move towards subscription licensing to simplify transactions and offer ongoing value to our customers as our products are continuously evolving. And last but not least, we're introducing new deployment flexibility with universal licensing. And whenever I say universal, I want you to think about the ability to run Citrix environments anywhere, across any data center or public cloud.
Thank you, Kami, and welcome to this short and easy session covering the product priorities for the Citrix BU for 2023. Before we start, I want to make sure we're all on the same page regarding the content of this presentation. First, the content is under NDA, which means it cannot be shared or discussed with anyone outside of this audience. And second, it's important to really understand that roadmaps change constantly because customer and partner requirements change, technology changes, the market evolves, and so on. So this means that some of the items discussed in a session may never really be productized, while other items, which are not on the list today, will take their place. So please take all of that with a grain of salt. But the first thing I want to talk about is pretty certain because we can all observe it, and that is that hybrid architectures which combine infrastructure resources, applications and services that are hosted in the cloud and on-prem become more prevalent. And for many organizations, hybrid is not just a step in their journey, it is actually the destination, as only a hybrid approach meets their needs from a regulatory, performance, or cost perspective. And Citrix is doubling down on hybrid capabilities to provide customers with a platform that meets their needs and supports or integrates or merges on-prem and cloud pieces to a modern digital workspace platform. This is really just a continuation of our good old any positioning we have been talking about for many, many years. And of course, we will continue to provide the industry-leading DaaS solution, but this year we will focus a lot of our investments into the on-prem CVAD solution to ensure you get the same great features and functionalities regardless of how you deploy our products. And this reinvigorated focus on on-prem CVAD really has been made possible by our merger with TIBCO and a transition into a private company, which removed many of the business constraints we had to operate under in the past. So when we look at the key themes for 23, then hybrid is a vital aspect that will run across everything we do. And that's a lot. In fact, there are multiple dozens of items on the roadmap. And even if we had 2 hours today, we couldn't cover them all. So to get you still an idea of what we do and what our priorities are, we've created 4 key themes that outline what we would like our products and solutions do for our customers. So, and the first one, or the first theme, is operational efficiency, which will enable customers to provide reliable, high-quality services while making most of their resources. The second is choice and flexibility, which should enable customers to meet the changing business needs, embrace emerging technologies, and reduce cost. The third one is around security compliance to enable customers to protect their environments against any kind of outside or insider threats, reduce risk, and obviously play along and achieve compliance with regulations. And last but not least, the fourth pillar is user experience to enable customers to increase productivity, improve adoption, and reduce training costs with their users, and also improve employee satisfaction at the same time. So now let's have a look into the highlights of each of those buckets that stand out over all the other roadmap items I had to filter out for this presentation. But since we are very short on time, I can't even discuss all the highlights. So that means I will only focus on 1 or 2 things and skip the others. But let's start with hybrid, since I talked a little bit about that earlier, and improving support for hybrid environments will involve quite a number of items. So for example, we already have Web Studio for on-prem out as a tech preview today, and some really good customer feedback is coming in. The idea here is to provide customers the same management experience for on-prem and in the cloud. And this is not only through the UI, which obviously got a lot more modern on the on-prem side, but it also can be done via the underlying new REST API, which is compatible with Citrix DAS and allows for unified automation across on-prem and cloud environments. In addition to that, for the hybrid world, we are planning to bring auto-scaling, reboot schedules, and support for non-domain joined VMs to CVAD on-prem. And furthermore, Storefront will get a lot of investments. The goal here is to have a unified code base between Storefront and Workspace eventually to achieve feature parity wherever that's possible, and to make technologies such as Citrix Secure Private Access or app protection available on-prem or in Storefront Web. And that means you will be able to provide users with access to web and SaaS and virtual apps and desktops with a single log-on to Storefront, similar to what you can do with Workspace. When we look into operational efficiency, to highlight here really are the efforts around simplifying image management. We plan to add a new images node in DAS and CVAD Studio that will be the central place to create and manage images. And with that, we plan to decouple the image creation workflow into an image preparation and a machine catalog creation piece, which will enable faster recovery in case something goes wrong during that initial creation process. So you don't have to restart that image creation process and from the very beginning, but you can essentially start somewhere in the middle. But what's more important is it also allows admin to create multiple catalogs from the same image without going through multiple image prep processes, which means much faster time to value, much easier scale up and down or update of environments. In addition to that, the images node will also integrate the image portability service, so that once you have created a version of a base image which you consider to be final and ready for rollout, IPS can take that and move the image from the on-prem hypervisor, for example vSphere, to another location, for example the cloud, so that you can use it on Azure right away. So single point image management which allows more flexibility and also more efficiency around that. In addition, in that bucket, I want to highlight that we work on a lot on automating things for you or your customers. So for example, the ServiceNow ITSM adapter will provide users with more self-service options, and we will provide or we plan to add the ability to automatically create tickets in ServiceNow based on availability changes or performance changes of our cloud services, or based on events in the on-prem CVET environment. We also invest into Workspace app updates, auto updates, to provide you with a much simpler version control to enable rollbacks, background updates, and canary rollouts. And we, of course, will GA the VDA upgrade service, which has been out there as tech preview for a while now. And the global app config service, last item I want to highlight here, which by the way also works for on-prem and cloud scenarios at the same time. It will provide coverage for all the settings for Workspace app and enterprise browser across all the platforms. And it will offer test and production channels so that you can test your configuration changes before rolling them out to production. And it will get an auditing functionality so you can track which admin changed what and when. Moving to choice and flexibility, where I would like to highlight the plans around an improved integration with Azure Stack HCI. So currently our Azure Stack HCI uses SCVMM and doesn't allow Windows 10 and 11 multi-session workloads to be provisioned. But we will leverage new integration options which are provided by Microsoft, and will switch our image management to MCS to enable on-prem Windows multi-session provisioning in the future, which I think is a pretty big deal. One other pretty impactful change, especially to admins in this case, will be our new custom landing pages, which will enable admins to define where they land when they sign into Citrix Cloud. So instead of landing at the default page with all the tiles all the time, it will provide the ability to specify or provide the admins the ability to specify where they want to start. So for example, they want to start right in Director or Monitor because they are working in Help Desk, or they want to start right in WEM Console or in DAS Studio or in Analytics for Performance. Essentially, all pages will be possible, and the admin can pick and choose where they want to land, and that will make the admin life a lot easier and save a lot of clicks and waiting time. I'm sure about that. And last but not least, there will be a new Workspace API, which is available in Tech Preview today. And this unifies our web and services APIs and enable you to seamlessly incorporate Workspace with your custom or third-party portals to really essentially meet the users where they are, as opposed to make them come to us. In the security section, we have a lot of things too, and I want to highlight the planned support for end-to-end FIDO2 password-less authentication. That's kind of a mouthful, but we get a lot of requests for that. And this will enable users to use FIDO2 all the way from the initial sign-in to Citrix Workspace app to using FIDO in the virtual desktop for authenticating to line of business applications. So no more passwords, all the way end to end, and of course stronger securities for users in all the use cases. The next item in this category to highlight is the enhanced controls for Enterprise Browser we are planning. So Enterprise Browser is a key component of Secure Private Access Service, and it provides users with a native browser to open web and SaaS applications securely from inside Citrix Workspace, without needing any kind of traditional VPN configuration or connection. And users, they enjoy the look and feel of and the capabilities of a modern work browsers, while admins can centrally manage granular policies for the browser itself with our global app config service. And security controls are important to customers in that context, of course. And we're working on a variety of features and functions, such as management of browser extensions, selective clearing of browsing data on the exit of the browser, control over password saving behaviors. And we plan also to add additional web app security policies to it to make it like a truly robust way of accessing web and SaaS applications in the enterprise context. And last but not least is user experience. And what absolutely stands out here is the new user experience for Workspace. So we intend to modernize the UI to make the onboarding experience for first-time users much simpler and more intuitive. We want to provide users with an easy-to-use homepage that puts the resources they need right front and center. enable admins to define categories that simplify finding the right apps if there are many to choose from. And we also plan to add a simpler session management experience for end users so that they quickly get an overview about all the sessions they have, they are currently using or have connected somewhere in the background, and then can log off or disconnect from those sessions easily without either having to search somewhere in the menus or to call help desk. And of course, such a UI change can cause mixed feelings on all sides. So we plan to allow admins to enable the new experience for specific user groups only for testing. And once you're all ready, then switch the UI over for everyone. And on the HDX side, HDX Lossy will allow the protocol to tolerate packet loss or much more packet loss and still deliver high quality audio. So the existing EDT is quite robust on the network stack, but it still requires all packets to arrive eventually. But with EDT Lossy, we can mask those missing packets without the user knowing in many cases. And this especially helps users which operate under challenging network connections, and especially organizations if they have users connecting from environments where you can't control the last mile. This is quite impactful. Initially, we want to make this available over gateway service, but bring this to on-prem gateway in a second step. One of the challenges we also have in HDX world is that and customers and partners have the challenge alike, is that applications sometimes don't behave as they are expected when delivered over HDX. But it's unclear if actually HDX is causing the problem or if it's the app. So we plan to provide self-service test tooling initially for the audio stack, which allow you or the customer to test the HDX stack and device redirection independently of the application to pin the root cause, which will simplify troubleshooting quite a lot. So I went through the priorities for 23 in Lightspeed, and I had to skip many details, but I hope you still got an impression of where we're planning to focus our investments in general and what outcomes to expect. Back to you, Kami. Thank you, Kami. So let's have a look into how Citrix enhances Microsoft Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 Cloud PC, which is a common topic we talk about with customers a lot. So in many customer conversations, Microsoft comes up, and we feel there is still some confusion around the two DaaS solution Microsoft provides, which is obviously Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 Cloud PC on the other side. And the customer questions often revolve around two key questions or two topics. Number one is, what's the difference between Windows 365 Cloud PC and Azure Virtual Desktop? And why would I use Citrix on top? Either of them. So let me get a quick answer to both of those questions as part of that webinar. To start with, let's do a comparison, a high-level comparison of both services. And what stands out is that Cloud PC is built for simplicity. It doesn't offer a lot of controls and management capabilities. It actually, in fact, is also integrated into Intune. So there is very little proprietary or DaaS-specific management aspects. On the other end, it also is limited from that perspective compared to Azure Virtual Desktop and other DaaS solutions, which are more built for flexibility. So a lot of different configuration options, integration options, different operating systems can be delivered, while with Cloud PC, it's very specific to one use case. Cloud PC also offers flat rate pricing, which speaks to the simplicity fact. It's easy. You know how much you're going to pay per desktop per user at the end of the month. While on Azure Virtual Desktop or other cloud-based solutions, you have a consumption-based pricing. That means you have a pricing volatility, but oftentimes, or I would say in the vast majority of cases, this consumption-based pricing is a lot cheaper than if you get a flat rate pricing. So there's always that trade-off between simplicity and flexibility or uncertainty in this case. And Cloud PC, as I mentioned before, it is not using a lot of DaaS-specific or DaaS-specific control and management aspects. It is integrated with Microsoft Endpoint Manager or Intune, where you need a license to. That also means that organization needs to use Intune to manage Cloud PC and most likely other parts of the desktop real estate as well. If there's another endpoint management solution in there, this can be quite a deal breaker. In Azure Virtual Desktop, on the other hand, it's managed via purpose-built tooling, which we all know. But obviously that requires a specific understanding of what those tools are and how to use them. Now, I don't want to say one is better than the other. I think we believe there are a variety of use cases where both of them make sense, and also Cloud PC, of course. And what we would like to do is to make both of them better suited for organizations that are large or have complex requirements, or that have demanding users or challenging applications, or already have a Citrix infrastructure and would like to prefer unified management across either of them. So if we focus on Cloud PC, how do we do this, or what can we offer there? And this is essentially, this talks to Citrix HDX Plus for Windows 365. And the customer value this provides, that can be grouped into 4 distinct areas. And it starts, as the name suggests, with HDX experience. So by enabling users to connect to their Cloud PC with HDX, they will get optimizations for an expansive list of telephony and unified communication solutions. So in addition to Teams, users can also get an optimized experience with WebEx or Zoom or RingCentral or Vonage or 8x8 or any sort of other solutions which have been certified with Citrix. But also HDX provides enhanced graphics and multimedia performance, which translates into around 30% lower bandwidth and 30% higher frame rate based on our initial testing. And this efficiency also helps a lot with low bandwidth scenarios where we can keep the frame rate per second very high, even when things get quite challenging. HDX also improves the support for peripherals like USB or scanner or even multi-monitor setups across different device platforms, which is often central to large organizations. And that also gets us into the flexibility section, which essentially enables customers to use Cloud PCs for more use cases. A part of this is also the Citrix Ready program, which maintains a lot of tested endpoints and peripherals and apps that just work with Citrix solutions, and so then with a Cloud PC that has been enabled with HDX Plus. Now, when using HDX Plus, Cloud PC effectively become just another type of workloads in Citrix does. And we'll see how that works in a second. But for customers, this means they can also leverage our context-aware and quite granular policy engine. They can use things like session recording or watermarking, app protection, and all of the other security and compliance functions you all know from Citrix does. And this also means that we enable customers to use Cloud PC with third-party identity solutions like Okta or Ping or Duo and provide users a single sign-on experience. So now I'm sure you wonder how we are doing this. And well, this is actually quite simple. After the initial setup, you will use the Citrix Admin Management Console or the DAS Management Console to entitle users for using HDX Plus. You do it by groups or by users. Microsoft will then install the Citrix VDA on the respective Cloud PC, and that VM will then register with the Citrix DAS service. Once that's done, essentially all the components in the communication path will be replaced with Citrix pieces so that the communication takes place over HDX and those machines become fully enabled in the Citrix stack, so to speak. Now, this was a very, very quick overview about what we do with Windows 365 Cloud PC and HDX Plus, but we have a pretty cool demo video on YouTube, and you see the bit.ly link there on the screen that summarizes HDX Plus and also shows a bit of the user and the admin experience. So if you would like a 2-minute summary of what I just talked about, but also see a few demos alongside with that, please have a look at that video. I highly recommend it. Now let's switch gears a little bit and move into Azure Virtual Desktop. Now, in general, we believe Azure Virtual Desktop is a good basic app and desktop virtualization solution that provides a basic set of functionality which is needed for that particular market. It has basic functionalities around like security, around provisioning, around remote access, monitoring, and so on. But there are obviously limitations, and this is no secret. I mean, Microsoft has established a whole ecosystem around Azure Virtual Desktop for the particular reason that there are gaps in the offering which need to be filled by partners. And there is about 20 to 30 different companies part of that ecosystem. And the vast majority of those partners, they focus on very specific challenges or in very specific value add areas where they would like to enhance Azure Virtual Desktop. So for example, this is where Nerdio comes into play. So Nerdio, for example, that is probably well known of them, that specifically focuses on the management and operations, and they add a little bit of improved or simplified provisioning and management as part of an optimized admin console, so that organizations can get simpler management and slightly more automation than what is provided by Microsoft. So it simplifies the management parts, but that's all they do. It's an optimized management console for Azure Virtual Desktop. If the customer says, oh, that's great, good starting point, but how about more monitoring or better monitoring options? That is where another partner would come in. Sepago could be one of them, but there is a variety of others. They would then specifically improve Azure Virtual Desktop monitoring. And if you say, oh, how about more security, or how about context-aware policies or something along the lines of that, well, there is a partner for that too. So that means if you build a solution which has fairly complex requirements, oftentimes you would then start with Azure Virtual Desktop as a base, and you would add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever number of partners from the ecosystem on top of Azure Virtual Desktop. The challenge with that obviously is that that approach doesn't necessarily scale well. And if a large or complex organization needs to add 5 partners to make Azure Virtual Desktop meeting their needs, then the whole solution stack becomes quite complex, and it becomes also quite expensive because there is neither really a technical integration nor licensing integration. So, and if there's any kind of support issue, then I think we can all imagine how that's going to look like. And this is exactly where Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops comes in, which similar to the other vendors I just talked about, builds on top of Azure Virtual Desktop and makes it better. But in contrast to those point solutions, we'll not just help with one specific area, but with many areas at the same time. And we're not just making existing functionality better, but we add net new functionality like multi-cloud or on-prem support, Linux workloads, user management, application management, and many other things that are not listed on that slide. And this is only for the pure app and desktop virtualization solution, which is obviously just a fraction of how the Citrix portfolio can attach to Microsoft solutions across the board. And to make that ecosystem play a little more obvious, a little more visible, what I just did, I just mapped out the ecosystem we have there and grouped them into various different, into the different areas they belong to, like monitoring, troubleshooting, universal printing, or security. And then I just overlay it with the Citrix functionality, which maps those areas. And I think you can see the complexity gets significantly reduced because many of what those partners offer as standalone functionality really is just a feature of functionality on our end. So essentially, in a nutshell, when you add Citrix to Azure Virtual Desktop, then you can do more with AVD. So we enhance functionality. A lot of the existing functionality gets improved, so we do things better. We make Azure Virtual Desktop better. And that's the important part, because of a lot of the density improvements, operational enhancements we provide, better monitoring, and so on. Actually, the total cost of running virtual desktops is likely to get lower, although you add a solution on top of this. And with this, back to you, Kami.
Hi, Ricardo. That's it for Citrix. Now we're moving on to NetScaler.
Yes, just a second here, Didi. Então, aqui acho que a gente vai agora terminou a sessão de Citrix, né? Mas acho que alguns pontos que eu queria reforçar todos esses pontos a gente pode continuar a conversa com vocês, seja do ponto de vista de vendas e de pré-vendas, lado mais técnico, e descer um pouco mais nesses tópicos. Mas acho que alguns pontos são importantes, né? Entender esse movimento da Citrix para o mundo híbrido, onde a gente tem mais vantagens, e ver como é que isso está se transformando também do ponto de vista de produtos. As modificações que a gente está fazendo, as melhorias que nós estamos fazendo para igualar a experiência dos usuários e do pessoal de IT no lado de on-premise, no lado de cloud, e todo esse movimento de novos lançamentos que a gente continua a ter, melhorias no nosso produto. Então, se vocês quiserem, coloquem aqui, entrem em contato com a gente, para a gente fazer talvez uma sessão um pouco mais em detalhes sobre isso, mas mantenham esse lado na cabeça. Sobre o lado dessa mudança, o que significa do ponto de vista de produto, do ponto de vista de licenciamento do Universal e as modificações que nós temos. Agora a gente vai falar sobre Netscaler, que eu acho que é um lugar que a gente tem bastante oportunidade. Tem também modificações que a gente fez do ponto de licenciamento, e aí, se tiver alguma dúvida, entre em contato e a gente pode fazer depois mais sessões. Netscaler. DT, can you show the rest of the presentation?
Thank you, Cami. As Cloud Software Group and its partners move to expand their business, so the importance of Netscaler grows, because it will be the growth engine of your CSG business into the future. So it's worth focusing on. And we know that partners that promote Netscaler actively do an average of 80% more business with CSG than those that don't. And we've had a lot of changes over the last few months. We've end-of-sale perpetual licenses, we've end-of-sale standard, we've repriced the VPX subscriptions, we've introduced an NPX and SDX subscription consumption model, we've repriced pool capacity, and we've increased the perpetual maintenance renewal costs. And this has an impact on our partner community, as many have just been used to selling perpetual devices, and there's some confusion as to what they should sell now. And a few have even reached out and said this would be a good time to recap Netscaler licensing as it is today. So I'm going to take that challenge, and I'll take about 15 minutes to go over the mechanics of the licensing, the advantages that it has, and try to help you understand the options and how you can decide what to position to your customers. So what do we have now? Well, it sounds like a lot's changed, but in reality, it's not that complex, and it's probably got a little easier. We've removed tens of thousands of SKUs and replaced them with a few hundred. Yes, everything is a subscription, but that can have real advantages for you and your customers, which we've covered in a past webinar. And we've been selling Netscaler subscription via pool capacity for a number of years. So when the business says, oh, it's all about subscription, it's a big change, we've already been doing this. And overall at Netscaler, we've now got two basic types of subscription: fixed throughput and pool capacity. Each is applicable to different form factors, hardware and software, and this level of flexibility is what makes Netscaler so popular with customers. We've offered fixed throughput subscription for VPX for several years, and we've recently added, as we just mentioned, the capability to have this fixed throughput subscription license to Netscaler hardware. And if we look more closely at this table here, you'll see that when hardware is used, there is a mandatory hardware maintenance charge to cover the RMA of broken boxes. And in each case, the subscription license is sold in discrete fixed amounts. Both advanced and premium editions are available, of course. And whilst maintenance is a mandatory add-on to hardware, the maintenance for the software is included in the subscription. So your customers will have access to the latest code as well as help and break-fix capabilities. Now, like fixed throughput subscription, pool capacity can be applied to hardware and software form factors. And when hardware is involved, this is purchased by the customer and requires, as before, the mandatory RMA capability. And it comes obviously in advanced and premium functionality. So the fundamental difference between the different subscriptions here, fixed and pooled, is the fact that pool capacity introduces the concept of collating the capacity and deploying it on demand where it's needed. And these pools and starter pools enable complete flexibility for customers, but it does require that the customer use Netscaler ADM, either on-prem or as the service, to dynamically allocate this capacity. And you can see in the bottom row of this table here that the fixed throughput subscriptions, which were designed to be a fallback for customers who did not want pooled, is really best for predictable application demand when the customer does not want to use ADM or ADM service. Pooled, on the other hand, provides so much flexibility to cope with the fluctuations in demand by allowing rapid capacity transfer between devices and environments as required. Another difference that you'll come across is the fact that pooled capacity offers a special conversion SKU for customers who already have invested in perpetual devices and want to pool that capacity. And this SKU recognizes the investment already made and includes that into their pool. Now, currently, there's no designated pathway for perpetual to a fixed throughput subscription. It's effectively a new purchase, which is likely to not be that appealing to customers who've got a renewal. Of course, things are changed when the hardware is end of life and needs to be refreshed, because then it's a new purchase in any case. Now, there is another subscription model I want to touch on, and we'll cover it later in more detail in this webinar, but I want to touch upon it now for completeness, and that is App Delivery and Security Service. This was introduced in 2021-22 and comes in two forms: NetScaler Managed and Self-Managed. The NetScaler Managed variant is a true ADC as a service, and in it, the ADC is provisioned and managed by NetScaler directly into the customer's VPC environment in the public cloud. It is the industry's first intent-driven self-healing ADC, but more on that later. It has a different consumption model based on the total amount of data consumed over the subscription term rather than a peak throughput rate like the other subscription models. Now, the self-managed variant, however, that's very much akin to pool capacity, and it relies on the dynamic allocation of throughput to ADCs in any environment from shared pools of capacity, just like pool capacity. Now, it is, as I say, like pool capacity, but it offers a couple of extras. It comes with an allocation of NetScaler ADM licenses that customers can use for analytics. I believe it's 1 license per gigabit purchase. It also comes with an entitlement to use a small amount of the NetScaler Managed variant to try it out. Now, throughout the rest of this presentation, I will tend to use pool capacity and ADM self-managed interchangeably. Now, I know that some partners are confused by the NetScaler licensing, so I've tried to explain it with some diagrams. Now, with fixed throughput subscription, a customer or partner on a customer's behalf needs to deploy the NetScaler device, and this might be physical or virtual. Then they go to the NetScaler licensing site and download the specific license files. And then each is manually applied to each device to make it work. And this is pretty straightforward and equivalent to the perpetual licenses we had previously. The only difference is that these licenses will expire. And when they do, things will keep working until you reboot the system. Now, things to note. The licenses are in discrete quantities only. That is, a 9100 device can only have 10, 20, or 30 gigabits. A 26,000 device, for example, can have 100, 160, or 200 gigabits applied to it. There's nothing in between. And there are no migration of spare capacity. Once you buy a license, it's one big chunk and applied in its entirety. The licenses can be applied in different environments, though. You can put your hardware or software ADC on-prem, or apply a fixed capacity to a cloud instance, for example. Pool capacity is different. The whole point of pool capacity is that it's flexible. You start with pools of capacity, which can either be advanced or premium edition, and these are deployed and managed via NetScaler ADM. And from here, customers can push capacity to any of the ADCs that front their applications. Perhaps they prefer NetScaler hardware devices like MPX or SDX that are optimized to run NetScaler code and have higher performance and SSL offload capability. Or maybe they run everything virtually and want to use a virtual device like a VPX. And some customers actually prefer to run the NetScaler software directly on the server itself, and this is the BLX variant. The good news is it doesn't matter. The same throughput can be deployed across any form factor. Now, they may have a second data center with more applications, and perhaps they want to add capacity to a new NetScaler. Well, they can do this easily from the same pools hosted in their NetScaler ADM, no problem. Also, suppose they want to shift an application from data center 1 to data center 2, and they want to reallocate that premium functionality from the virtual ADC to the new one. They do this very simply and easily. Just check in the capacity back in from DC1 and then reallocate it to the ADC in data center 2. It's very, very simple. And even for public cloud, one of the most popular use cases for pool capacity is, of course, when customers shift workloads to the clouds. In this case, the NetScaler is spun up in the cloud and the license can be applied from ADM. Of course, just like before, the license can be removed from the original site when it's no longer in use. And that is the power of pool capacity and the flexibility that it brings to your customers. So to recap, pool capacity gives customers flexibility to move their ADC functionality between locations, on-prem and cloud. It offers better economic solutions for customers as they can apply their resources with more granularity, and they can use pool capacity to automate ADC licensing. That is, customers have the flexibility to deploy capacity in 1 gigabit increments on the hardware and 10 megs, I believe, increments on the VPX, subject to minimum thresholds. And pool capacity is much simpler to manage. It's a pool of capacity that's deployed and managed enterprise-wide and offers great visibility and automation. And for you as partners, you will benefit from speaking with customers who are shifting workloads into or among clouds in particular. In many cases, the customer sees the value of this even if they're not yet ready to do it, and they will buy pool capacity regardless. Now your next question is likely, what should I sell to what customer? And I put together a suggested decision tree for existing customers that you might want to use. Now if you have an existing perpetual customer, they may have to make a change. If they have a renewal coming up, then you've got a couple of options. You can convert them to pool capacity, which is something that we've all been successful in the past at doing, and it represents a large portion of our business. And you can do this, or if the customer won't convert, you can simply renew their maintenance. If the customer is looking to refresh the hardware that's end of life, for example, then there will need to be a change. Here you can sell them new hardware via the NetScaler subscription, the fixed term subscription, or convert them to pool capacity, using either method as we've been doing in the past. If, of course, the current devices are end of life, then it's effectively a new sale, and you can explore either of those options. Note, there's currently not a conversion from perpetual to the fixed throughput subscription, so it would be a new sale in any case. Now, if they're expanding their capacity of perpetual, then it's a great opportunity to convert their existing estate to pool capacity, as you likely already know. And if they don't want to convert to pooled, then you can sell them a new subscription. There is no more perpetual, but that new subscription can operate, and that new subscription device can operate alongside their current estate, just like a perpetual device would. And this bottom chain here is if the customer is already a pooled customer, then there should be no changes. Just renew them and expand their use cases as you go forward. Now, the future of NetScaler is subscription. It's just about knowing which is the best fit. If the customer wants software ADCs only, then that's VPX or BLX, and you can pitch the VPX, BLX term subscription. And we've had this for a while, so it shouldn't be new and should be easy enough to do. Equally, I know we have customers who want software only, but want the flexibility of a pool of capacity from which they can allocate workloads on demand. So you can absolutely sell them pool capacity as you've been doing. Now, if the customer is only looking at hardware ADCs, and that is they want NetScaler functionality but delivered on purpose-built, optimized hardware, and they want the precious SSL acceleration that comes with that, then you can sell them a new subscription package, a fixed-term subscription package. Absolutely you can. But equally, we have many, many customers who want hardware but require the flexibility that pooled capacity delivers. And when the customer wants a mix of hardware and software for a cloud migration, for example, this is right in the wheelhouse of pool capacity and one of the major benefits over all the competitors out there. So overall, there is something for everyone, and you will meet customers who don't want a subscription, and you will, as I've said before, we might have to work with the business to see if there's something that we can do for them. But overall, it's really about the subscription and selecting the right one for each customer. So I hope this presentation has helped you understand a little better the differences between the different subscription models that we have and when to use which. I'd say that in the main, we probably want to push customers to a pooled model as it offers the most benefit and flexibility. But we have the fallback position of fixed throughput subscription as well, just in case. So thank you very much, and back to you, Cami. Thank you, Cami. NetScaler App Delivery and Security Service is now available on Azure. This is great news for our CSG as well as our partners, as it opens the door to a lot of new opportunity. And in this talk, we'll share with you what that opportunity is, why it's important to you, and how you can capitalize on it. I've waited long for this day, and it's finally arrived. NetScaler App Delivery and Security Service available on Azure. Woohoo! Well, almost. We are in advanced tech preview stage. This means that while it won't show up everywhere, you as partners can invite any customers interested in putting an ADC in front of their cloud deployed apps to try it out. Now, we released NetScaler ADS on AWS about a year ago, though it does seem like longer. And this was great, but only the first step. Now, we went with AWS as they're the largest cloud by market share, as I'm sure you all know. However, if you look at the market share of cloud among our enterprise customer base, it's a slightly different story. We see an overwhelming preference for Azure. And whilst these data are estimated, it does make sense. If many, if not most, of our joint customer base are heavily invested in Microsoft and they have Azure credits they want to use, so they turn there first. So we see more customers with Azure clouds than we do with AWS clouds. Now, they probably also have AWS clouds and are using elements of their business there as well, but for the enterprise base that we talk to every day, most of the people are asking us for, when will this be on Azure? When will this be on Azure? Well, today's the day, people. It's here now. And so the next reason that this is important to you as a CSG partner is that NetScaler is likely to be the growth engine of all of our business over the next few years. It's all about the ADC. ADCs are more necessary than ever before as businesses become more reliant on applications for processing and for customer engagement. The global ADC market continues to show steady growth, with most of this coming in the ADC as a service arena. I think it's probably about 10 times the growth of the ADC on-prem. Both are still growing. Maybe it's like 2% growth and 20% growth, or 1.5 and 15. I can't remember off the top of my head. But that ADC as a service arena, that is growing most. And that is exactly where NetScaler ADS service plays. Therefore, this is a confluence of opportunities that will help you make more money and bring value to your customers, because NetScaler ADS service is a truly transformational product that you can position with your customers. And although we've been through the description of ADS service before, I just want to spend a few minutes recapping what it is, why it's different, and how you can position it. Now, given the time we've got, it will be high level. And if you want more details, check out the information that we've got on Sales IQ, or give me a call. As your customers modernize their IT, we see there's a need for them to re-examine their app delivery and security infrastructure. They tell us this every time we talk to them. We see several IT trends that are impacting their business in a big way. Application experience, that's the new currency for IT. Whether for employee productivity, customer engagement, or just overall user experience, the application perception is crucial and key to the business. Similarly, the transition to cloud and SaaS has shifting from if and how much to how fast and efficiently you can move your operations to the cloud to reap the business benefits. And these challenges they make IT feel like they're in perpetual catch-up mode with the business, and that's driven by this increase in complexity. Cloud and modern app deployment scenarios are not making things easier. They promise to, but they haven't really delivered on that yet. And when you factor in the problems of a distributed and heterogeneous workforce, you create the perfect storm for complexity, which IT definitely struggle to keep abreast of. Similarly, automation still falls short of the level needed to simplify app deployment and meet the business's agility requirements. And additionally, as the internet becomes the delivery medium of choice for many businesses, so we rely on a network into which IT has no visibility and over which it has no control. It's a huge blind spot, and user experience does suffer. And moreover, just as cybersecurity threats are proliferating and increasing in sophistication, so we're seeing a fragmentation of the security tools and solutions, which is creating gaps and leading to increased exposure. And all of this put together hampers IT and makes it difficult to deliver business outcomes effectively. Ultimately, you have the same number of IT people trying to manage and control a much more complex environment, which is overwhelming. So enter NetScaler App Delivery and Security Service. To combat this, we launched this service, and this is the industry's first app delivery and security service designed to simplify the app delivery by being intent-driven, always learning, always adapting, and always protecting. So we based it on the 4 human principles I just described. Intent-driven, NetScaler ADS service translates the business intent into the appropriate policies and configurations to ensure that those intentions are met. And then it continually enforces these intentions, so it changes the parameters of its configuration to make sure that it stays within those business intents. And it's always learning about the application environment, the health of the servers, the state of the internet, new cyber threats, and more. And the service has the capability to learn about that environment holistically from end to end, from the user to the server and the internet in between. But of course, learning's not enough. NetScaler ADS service continually optimizes to improve the user experience and automatically reconfigures things when application conditions change or performance degrades. So when a server goes down, ADS service brings in another one. When the user latency increases to a site, it redirects that user to an alternate. And this is a big differentiator for NetScaler. And lastly, it's always protecting the valuable applications APIs of the business and protecting that user experience. So who benefits from NetScaler ADS? Well, the answer to the question of who benefits is twofold. Customers will love it because it ensures their apps are available and delivered in the best user experience that they can get. More than this, ADS service will self-heal when things go wrong, as well as intelligently scale to meet the fluctuating demand that they see. That is, if a customer requires more ADC power, then NetScaler will provision additional capacity automatically. And this is great for customers with seasonal variation in demand, as you can imagine. And the integration of NetScaler ITM into NetScaler App Delivery and Security Service will automatically steer requests to the site that responds best for each individual user and improve application response times. And who wouldn't want that? Which of your customers wouldn't want a better response time for their applications? And it's easier to configure than the equivalent public cloud tools as well. But what's in it for partners? Well, first off, you don't need in-depth knowledge of ADCs and their deployment and what makes them work to make your customers happy. You can most certainly resell the config services through your cloud services team and deliver on it easily and simply. Thirdly, because you're able to offer customers more value, you'll reap the benefits in CSG margins as well as customer loyalty and, of course, built-in annuity for the future. And it will also help you realize your customers' demand to migrate to the cloud more quickly. So overall, NetScaler ADS service is a win-win for all concerned. So how do you find opportunities in your account base? What should you listen for? Well, we did a long version of opportunity spotting when we launched the product. And I believe that's available still on Sales IQ, so you can check that out for more details. But to summarize, if you've a customer who's migrating apps to the cloud, ADS service can certainly help, and this is an excellent opportunity for you to discuss it. Similarly, we see many customers who are using cloud as their disaster recovery option, and the ADS service will offer the same functionality as their current NetScaler on-prem, so it's an attractive proposition to know that they have operational consistency across environments. And because of the auto-scaling, anyone who uses the cloud for expansion or scaling will love NetScaler ADS service. The concept of pay for a contracted amount of data processed and consume it when you want is totally awesome. Now, many customers push apps to the cloud to improve user experience, and the inclusion of ITM and its ability to remove the internet as a blind spot and automatically redirect requests will appeal to this type of need. So it follows that customers deploying new apps in the cloud, either in a single site or across multiple sites, should find the ADS service very appealing indeed. And the last point on this slide is about providing application security, which should apply to all customers with internet-facing apps. That said, NetScaler has done a lot to simplify application security in ADS service with its intent-based configuration. So for example, you can protect against the OWASP top 10 threats with a single click. And a lot of customers are finding that very attractive indeed. And this will improve as we add more use cases for intent-based configuration. Now, there are more customer opportunities, of course, but this should get you going. If you want to find out more, check out the information on Sales IQ. And once you've found the right customers, you can use these topics as conversation guides. I haven't time to go through them all today, so once again, more on Sales IQ, but you can focus in and around the intent-driven configuration. No one else has this. The analysts love it, and so will the customers as a conversation at the very least. The degree of automation is another plus for ADS service. Removing the guesswork from the selection of resources and licensing has a lot of legs with your customers. The self-healing to maintain user experience is a great way to engage with customers. Who wouldn't love that, for example? And the internet state awareness is unique to NetScaler and well worth using as a conversation starter. And this is something that's particularly close to my heart, but I'll refrain from discussing it today, but I'm happy to come back and present on this another day if you'll have me. And of course, it goes without saying that holistic app security delivered from the cloud are very appealing to customers as they struggle to secure their apps today against the ever-increasing sophistication of cyber threats. So these topics, these 6 topics here, they should go a long way to helping you have conversations around this. And as I said, there are more details on Sales IQ. Just check them out or give me a call. And I just wanted to wrap this section up with a reminder that the packaging for NetScaler ADS service is a little different. I alluded to this earlier, but where we have traditionally sold NetScaler based on a maximum throughput rate, NetScaler ADS service is sold based primarily on the total volume of data processed in terabytes. There's some small complications around DNS requests, but let's park those for now. So there are just, I think, 4 SKUs at 300, 1200, 4800 and 20,000 terabytes of data volume processed. And these are annual subscriptions, and of course it comes in advanced and premium feature editions, but it's very straightforward. And this makes it very appealing, as I said, for e-commerce sites, for example, that might have seasonal loading of their business. For example, if 80% of a company's business happens in the mad rush between Black Friday and Christmas, and they need big NetScalers to cope with that load, or big ADCs to cope with that load, but the rest of the year things are just sitting idle, then ADS service is perfect, as they can buy the amount of processing they require for the year, and NetScaler will provision the right number of ADC instances to meet the demand when they need it. Again, we covered this in more detail in the Selling Positioning Guide, which is available on Sales IQ, and I refer you to that. So in closing, NetScaler App Delivery and Security Service is well ahead of its time. But then again, so was NetScaler when it came out. And the market, like the market came to meet NetScaler, so this market is coming to meet NetScaler App Delivery and Security Service. And that will be to the benefit of CSG and to all our partners. And I'm thrilled that this product is now available on Azure, as it will open new doors in the enterprise to discuss this going forward. Thank you, and back to you, Cami.
Gente, só, sei que já chegamos às 10 horas, só um último slide aqui, que é relativo ao Workspace. Antigamente a gente tinha o ShareFile integrado, eles podem continuar sendo renovados, mas se for para poder fazer uma nova, querem continuar com o ShareFile, não podemos vender mais. Então a forma de fazer isso seria entrar em contato com a Marisa, pede para ela ter um desconto especial para clientes que querem adquirir o ShareFile, ela consegue tratar isso direto com vocês, com os nossos distribuidores, tá bom? Então esse é o último aviso. Obrigado pela participação. Mandem feedbacks. Querem conversar sobre um tópico especial que foi apresentado aqui? A gente está imaginando sessões locais sobre alguns desses tópicos. Por favor, nos deem feedback e vejam o que a gente pode fazer mais em relação a esse evento. Muito obrigado. That's all. Thank you, Gigi.
Thank you, Ricardo. We'll be ending the session now. Thanks for joining.